Conspiracy theorists have come up with some pretty interesting and creative explanations as to why we didn't land on the moon. They point to things like the lack of stars in Apollo images and the fact that footage shows flags waving on the moon where there is no atmosphere and shouldn't be any wind. All of these claims are easy to disprove, and there's some evidence that we landed on the moon that you can't disprove. Evidence like the way the dust flies in the wake of the lunar rovers. Footage from Apollo 16's so-called Lunar Rover Grand Prix shows astronauts John Young and Charlie Duke roving around the moon in the second lunar rover to reach the surface. Some of the footage gives us a view of the dust kicked up by the rover's wheel, and the dust follows a trajectory it just couldn't follow if this Lunar Rover Grand Prix had been filmed on a soundstage on Earth. If you look at the way the dust is kicked up in the wake of the lunar rover's wheels, it forms a very distinctive rooster tail. It doesn't just fall in a parabolic arc like it would on Earth. The rooster tail is a product of the lunar environment, the low gravity environment and the lack of appreciable atmosphere. There's nothing to drag the dust particles down. They're able to fly further from the rover's wheels after being kicked up in the air, and they follow a spinning trajectory thanks to the wheel's movements. We just wouldn't see this on Earth. The atmosphere causes enough friction with dust particles that anything kicked up behind a vehicle would just fall straight back down again. This is actually a really interesting way to prove that we did land on the moon, and possibly one of the hardest ones to disprove. This study was done by two scientists at the Laboratory for Atmospheric and Space Physics at the University of Colorado in Boulder. They turned the trajectory of the dust that they saw in the Lunar Rover Grand Prix footage into a mathematical formula, and when they replaced the lunar values for earthly values, what they saw was that the footage could not have possibly been filmed on Earth. The dust just wouldn't act the same way. According to the math,